Tonight's broadcast of the NLRL Sunday League is brought to you by Malwa Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca. Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTM for tonight's coverage of the penultimate round of the NLRL Sunday League here in Season 4. Coming up on race number 41 and 42 in the history of this prestigious series, we are on to the final two of the double sprint races of the season before we head to the season finale in Silverstone. As always, I'm Regan Clark. You join us here on round 9 of the championship. Two races set to follow on today, the final sprint race of the season before we're back on to 60 minutes of racing in Silverstone. As mentioned beforehand, and you join us here in a bright and sunny Monterey County, California, here in the United States at the Mazda WeatherTech Laguna Seca Raceway. Founded in 1957 and in the modern day comprised of 11 turns and 2.238 miles of FIA Grade 2, the same design iteration introduced some 30 years ago in 1996. An update of a design brought in the decade before. Laguna Seca offers a very unique challenge in terms of American circuits, highly vertical, a high emphasis on verticality, and a lot of maneuverability intensive corners all throughout. Less high speed intensive than what we see over at Watkins Glen International, and a lot less grandiose than what we see at the Circuit of the Americas. Laguna Seca does offer an incredibly unique challenge for an American circuit. Very tight, very compact, and it's going to give us rife racing opportunities on the run in towards these next two 30-minute sprint races here in the double sprint format. More on that in due course. This track also hosts races for both IndyCar and the IMSA Sports Car Championship, the two main articles of its yearly calendar. We're on board at the moment with Christian Lebay out during free practice, taking a look into the session itinerary and then onto the discussion of the championship at hand and where we find ourselves for the road ahead. Looking in to the session itinerary today, back onto the double sprint format for the last time this season before round 10, here with 10 minutes of free practice, of which we're in the middle of at the moment, 20 minutes of qualifying that will dictate the grid for both race 1 and race 2, a double set of 30-minute races. One mandatory pit stop per race, and like last week in Kyalami, open fuel time with 3.2 seconds minimum for a stop and drop. A lot of drivers will be considering their options to pit for tyres in one of the hottest races on record. Taking a look into the championships then, starting off with the rookies, we find ourselves here with William Bajor leading by 20 points over Sam Angel in second. Zolt Beefgartner starting to catch up in third place. Stefan Nikolai in fourth and Josh Wellbeloved in fifth. Alan Alexander up to sixth place after his maiden victory in Kyalami last weekend. JM Keto seventh, Brooklyn Donkin in eighth, Taylor Wolford in ninth, and Carl Martel maintains his position in the top 10. Looking at the team's championship standings, Velocity have lost somewhat of the ground they held in the lead of things, now only off of Euro Titans Endurance by 17 points at the peak of it all. Melvin Milliston, the defending Season 3 champion, has been the sole representative of the Velocity Racing team's points endeavours in the team's championship up until today. Euro Titans having gained significant ground since their late entry to the championship. Malwa Racing now off them by 2 points to make the back of the podium. 5-Star Esports pushed out entirely to fourth place. VEC Esports in fifth with Holkianos sixth. Fatch GT in seventh place, gaining ground on Holkianos. Will it be by the end of the season? One does definitely wonder. Nexus GT still in eighth place. Looking into the main championship standings then for the overall, the top 10 at the top of your screen there. Melvin Milliston leading by 381 points in all, ahead of Lebay with 274. We'll get on to the topic of what is set to be the championship fight. Third place for Cas van Velsen at the moment with William Bajor, the rookie category leader, mind you, leading in that charge, but he's fourth in the overall standings ahead of George Todd in fifth place. Zolt Beefgartner in sixth with James Mason in seventh. Ben Cheeseman in 8th with 110 points. Sam Angel in 9th with 106. And 10th for Alan Alexander. Up into the top 10, of course, after his maiden victory. And now, reflecting upon that as we stay on board with the Aston Martin here on what is going to be the final 3 runs we'll ever see on a race day here for the V12 Vantage. 2 races today and next one coming up next weekend. Taking a look back to last weekend, and with a new year of competition in NLRL came new race winners. Alan Alexander wowed expectations in Kyalami amidst torrential downpour, one of, if not the wettest races of the 39 prior runnings of the NLRL Sunday League. Race number 40 gave the world Porsche's first win in the Sunday League, as Alexander, the wizard on water, dominated in hectic conditions. Tyler Vermaak missed out on this win at home, but the South African talent, now a veteran of the series, learned even more valuable lessons on his first Sunday League race with Lamborghini. He finished second behind Alexander and ahead of Cas van Velzen, who delivered on an eventful drive with Mercedes. In the absence of that round of the defending Season 3 champion Melvin Milliston, Labay and Van Velzen have both made up ground in the title charge towards the leading Swede, now placing them in the odds for Season 4's championship as we enter 2 races with twice the amount of points over last week at the penultimate round of the season. And looking into those championship fighting odds then, starting things off with where we find ourselves here. There is your top 3, Milliston, Labay and Van Velzen. And that 107-point gap, grim as it may seem, still leaves Labay numerically within the fight here in Seca. He's going to have to push very, very hard in the next 3 races to be within a shout of a second championship to his name, or could it be championship win number 2 for Melvin Milliston? Cas van Velzen, 122 points shy, still numerically within the fight, as we'll take a look into the odds just a moment from now as to how many points starting from today's dual set of rounds are left in the championship. He's 122 points behind, but moreover, he's 15 points away from Christian Labay himself. The two were banking on Milliston not showing up to this round, but as you can see, he will be on track. The number 1 already in the current itinerary for driver entries. We see up in front of Christian Labay here, 2 of the Ferraris, Mikhail Krasnik and Spencer Brown. Now, looking into the odds for what it would take for Milliston to win the championship here in Laguna Seca, with that 107-point gap that he currently holds over Christian Labay, if he can maintain that gap by the end of race 1, he's got this one tucked into the bag. If not, he has to sustain a gap of at least 96 points minimum by the end of race 1. So that's the best and worst case scenarios right now. If he can outscore Labay, that's fantastic. If not, he still has to be 96 points ahead. That's really only talking in and around a factor of an 11-point difference front to back there if he were to run into trouble, which we've already seen to be the case with McLaren so far in terms of stability. That could still tip him over the scales. He needs to find 96 points by the end of race 1. Currently holds on to 107, so it will be a bit of a more defensive drive to come to expect out of Milliston. If it boils over into race 2, he has to finish that with a minimum points gap of 48 points before we get to Silverstone. If not, he'd have to attend round 10 to fight for the championship. You see Labay pulling it in to the side of the road. Taking a look at where the standings currently place us in free practice. William Bajor currently fastest, Labay second, Levi Warner in third, Carl Martel 4th place. We see there Dan Junior Poulin in 5th place, Ben Hart in 6th, Josh Wellblood 7th, Brooklyn Donkin in 8th, Taylor Wolford 9th. Andrew Velkamp makes the 10 times currently on the chart. Taking a look at those temperatures, it is a scorcher here in California. 48 degrees on track. Looking at the ambient temperatures doesn't give us much more of a compelling sign here. 39 degrees. It is brutal temperatures here on what is already a demanding track on those Pirelli P0s. It's not going to be a comfy day in these next 2 races to follow. Taking a look at the balance of performance statistics for today's race, Aston Martin once again best in class, closely followed by that of Lexus, 34 kilos off of the RCF. Mercedes losing 9 kilos, so too is the case for Ford. Now, this is a dangerous game balance of performance appears to be playing with. Of course, we've seen Ford to be on the short end of the stick and still be competitive now that they are nowhere near the worst end in terms of BOP changes. They may have just had the shackles kicked out from their ankles here and let to run free. That 333 could be charging up towards the front come qualifying. Currently leads by 112 thousandths of a second. It's a dangerous sign for Ford. Finally, the weight quite literally lifted from their shoulders. Looking elsewhere in the balance of performance tweaks, 8 kilos taken away from McLaren, 3 away from Ferrari and Porsche. BMW losing a single kilo. Negligible changes then if we're talking in the story of BMW's up inside the top 10. The 2 Nexus GT cars, Ben Hart and Josh Wellbeloved, spring to mind. Lamborghini gained 10 kilos, so another case here for Tyler Vermack. Has it been a gamble worth making? Bear in mind, his main deciding factor on the move to Lamborghini, he told us, was that it has a lot of the same strengths carried forth by the 720S minus the detrimental BOP. Well, this could not be a worse case of irony here, with the Lamborghini gaining considerable amounts, McLaren actually losing weight in this race. Honda find themselves heaviest in class, and that's not great news for Thomas Romano, who registered with with the NSX GT3 Evo. That's 16 kilos to play with on the advent of qualifying today. Super important when one considers as well that these upcoming 20 minutes of qualifying are going to decide the grids for both race 1 and race 2. We just saw there across the line, Kyle Jenkins, 6th fastest in the number 113. Number 40 coming to the line. Here's Ben Hart. Also awaiting the arrival of Taylor Wolford from 11th place. We'll wait to see how things do boil down across the line then. Hart 8th at the end of free practice. Hopeful signs here for Nexus GT. We see big trouble there for Taylor Wolford. Into the gravel. Number 12 nearest to the line at this time. We'll try to catch on board with George Todd. 5-Star Esports, number 12 Ferrari on the way out through turn 11 here in Laguna Seca. We get a full tour of the track during qualifying then. Coming down towards the line goes the number 12 to kick off the start of 20 minutes of qualifying here. And you can see it's a lively paddock already. A heavy scramble out towards the exit. Knowing things aren't going to get any better on track for these drivers, we can see burst out the gates there. Christian Lebay in the 119, then Melvin Milliston right behind him. And I believe they're joining them right from behind is the 332, if memory does serve correctly there. That was Shahan Karim. We'll have to double check that one as well. We can see, actually it might have been, no, it wasn't Mikhail Kwasnik. So it does stand to reason that, yes, it was the 332 of Shahan Karim. On board then with Christian Lebay leading that charge right behind him. Potential Season 4 champion to be, Melvin Milliston. Bear in mind, his attendance to this round, unlike last weekend, has laid heavy consequences here for both Lebay and Van Velzen, as this could be the light of their championship endeavours, whether it was a second championship for Lebay or a first ever championship for Van Velzen, snuffed out with 3 point scoring opportunities left to go in the championship. Looking at the qualifying predictions whilst we stay on board with Christian Lebay, we can see that William Bajor currently predicted fastest, the 123.265 from the rookie sensation. Levi Warner of Fatch GT predicted it second in a single 100th up the road from Lebay in third. Vermac predicted fourth, Beef Gartner fifth, Spencer Brown sixth, Dan Junior Poulin seventh, Kyle Jenkins eighth, Ivan Sanchez ninth, and Sergio Belder inside of that top 10. Of course, there is some rather erroneous points here, missing out the inclusion of drivers like, for example, Van Velzen and Milliston, who are both in attendance to today's session. Let's stay on board then with the Season 1 champion from Aston Martin in and amongst the final runs he'll have with the V12 Vantage before his predicted move to Jaguar. Down towards the Andretti hairpin, then out of turn 1 into turn 2 we go almost immediately here at Laguna Seca. This is going to be the first of our major overtaking opportunities, and we've seen things get incredibly hairy on race start, heading down into that hairpin for the first time. In through a very awkward section of the track here, deceptively so, turns 3 and 4, very little runoff as you saw there in the background. Take one step over and it could be doom. Mikhail Krasnik very nearly found out the hard way. The exit of turn 4 and the run up towards turn 5, beginning that run uphill. Cambered left-hand turn brings us uphill now in towards turn 6. Very easy section of the track for things to go south. As we see that sausage curb on the inside, sneakily hid in and amongst the rumble curves there. Same colour, almost camouflaged in up through turn 7, in towards turns 8 and 8A here at the most iconic section of the track, the corkscrew. This perilous drop downhill gives us the run in towards the rainy curve at turn 9, now equally dangerous as turn 8. As it will have to be a case that drivers will have to give it the full Stirling Moss through this section to get the most out of the cars, especially given the weather at play today. Out through turn 10, in towards turn 11 he goes. Lebay set to be the first time on the charts, predicted currently inside of that top 3. Let's see what he can do though. Down towards the line, he'll be the benchmark time for now, 123.842. Milliston to the line from behind him. Takes the fastest time, 122.890, nearly by a whole second there. Vermaak and Van Velzen in pursuit as well take up what was going to be second and third. Levi Warner says no thank you and takes second for his very own there in the number 69. Bear in mind, Fatch GT's third race in the Sunday League. Set to be technically their third and fourth races, but their third round. Spencer Brown, teammate to Levi Warner, Fatch GT, now 6th. We saw they were going to be at the looks of things there, second and fifth, but both he and Warner have been pushed down a peg by William Bajor of VEC Esports. Now up to second fastest. It's a Ford 2-3. The fears currently on the table that by not giving hefty penalties over to Ford in terms of balance of performance, that we may have just created the perfect storm for dominance by the Blue Oval. Definitely setting into the minds of many drivers across the grid not to be competing within Ford's ranks. See then for Vermac, new stealth livery on the Huracan. Second endeavor now with the 89 in the Huracan Evo 2. There's a bit of a struggling Kyle Army. Wasn't satisfied with the performance, he told us after that race. Looking to make up for it here, but the conditions definitely could not be more dire for many a mid-engine car. Stability of high priority concern for McLaren so far. Lamborghini wouldn't be far off of that step themselves. We saw improvements from both Vermac and Van Veltzen, but the two hold on to the last of the top 5 positions. Coming to the line, the 113. We saw Kyle Jenkins momentarily at 9th, then pushed down to 10th. Most recent improvements there by George Todd puts him 5th. 616 coming to the line a moment ago. Veldkamp 19th. 4 across the line, that pushes Veldkamp down to 20th. Mikhail Krasnik on his second race in the Sunday League, now to 18th. The 40 across the line a moment ago as well. We saw Ben Hart into the top 10. Just up and ahead of his teammate Josh Wellbeloved at Nexus GT. The two BMWs scrapping for a position there, separated by just under half a second. It's going to be a curious one today. Of course, Ben Meredith we saw across the line a moment ago. Big trouble for Porsche at this time. Bit of a mixed bag. Meredith 20th. His teammate Alan Alexander, last round's race winner. The first ever in a series of historic firsts in the Sunday League. Of course, first ever driver to win with Porsche. First ever rookie to win outright. And the first British winner in 2 seasons. 9th place after his first run there. He, as well as many other drivers, have began to complain of the conditions, calling them inhospitable for the tyres. Among many other things. Labay now 4th fastest up the road from Vermac. We see Vermac takes it right back off of him to 3rd, then right back off of him as well. Levi Warner up to 2nd. Spencer Brown to 4th. Fats GT looking to challenge here in Laguna Seca. You can see the gap between Bajor and Brown for that 3rd place spot. A measly 0.02 of a second. Then when we're talking just behind, it's only 100th between Brown and Vermac. So incredibly close stuff so far. We're not even halfway into qualifying at this time. 2 temps between Milliston and Warner. And now this is not great news for Cas Van Veltzen or Christian Labay, the two most likely candidates to be able to challenge Milliston in the championship standings, because they have a whole wad of traffic standing in between them. It's not going to bode well for the start of race 1 if they had a hold position at this point. It would be Fats GT and VEC Esports clashing with the Season 3 champion for control of the leading position. Melvin Milliston now back into the fray after a week off. Looking potentially to hunt down race wins number 15 and 16 today. Now that's, of course, still yet to have been figured out at this time, but he is looking very confident even amidst record high conditions this season. One of the hottest races on record. And now I believe, I can't exactly remember which round, but it was in the last couple of seasons we had an even hotter race than this, where track temperatures got upwards of 52 degrees. Right now, we're not far from it, about 50 degrees on track, looking at the temperatures there. So still an incredibly hot track here. FIA Grade 2 being scorched to the limit. Warner 2nd. Brown maintains 4th place. Bajor in between the pair of them. Could there be an improvement here? Needs 188,000 to equalise with Warner up for 2nd place to be on that front row. Can Bajor do it across the line? He goes. Sadly, not this time around. Moreover, he's not been able to find any more space ahead of that claustrophobically tight gap between himself and Spencer Brown, still only at 0.02 of a second. We see here with Brown running up towards the back end of what appears to be Shahan Karim of VEC Esports. Moves over before turn 6. Through goes the 93, and this is exactly what we're talking about. You clip that inside curb, and that's precisely where you're off to. A big, hefty chunk of gravel into the underside of that Ferrari. 91 coming to the line. We'll try and catch on board here with Ivan Sanchez of Hokianos Motorsport coming down towards the line with BMW from 20th and stays 20th after that last lap just gone. Coming up towards the halfway mark of the session, things are looking rather interesting across the board here. We see Labey pull it into one side with Milliston looking to come down towards the line. Now, bear in mind, fastest time, 1:22.807. Can he find an improvement over that? Yes, the short answer, 1:22.670. Absolutely mind-bogglingly fast stuff now from McLaren. Amidst fears that they could have stability concerns in today's race, they are showing the naysayers wrong. You see here for Ferrari's George Todd pulling it into one side. Nearest to the line, the 1:13. Now, we saw Kyle Jenkins momentarily into that top 10. Across the line he goes onto another flying lap. To take a look at the odds he'll need to get up towards the top 10, that benchmark set by Alan Alexander, 1.325 seconds from pole position. Now, looking in relative gaps, he needs to find, looking at it there, about 240 thousandths of a second. That's about 2 tenths and 4 hundredths to be precise. They're definitely within reach for McLaren. They've already shown and demonstrated good performance today. Their major concerns have been stability, but that is one shared almost unanimously across the board for the mid-engine cars of today's grid. For the front-engine cars, their concerns rely on tyre heat, namely over that front axle. Understeer, a major concern for the front-engine cars, lack of control through the corners. Now, in terms of spinning out, the chances are still absolutely there, with gravel aplenty on either side. That can do more than enough to take a car around the wrong way. On the exit of most of these corners, we saw they're dipping a wheel into the gravel with Zolt Beefgartner with Lexus. Their primary concerns for when they're in between the white lines is going to be understeer. You can see it there, washing out towards the far right-hand side of the track. Judging off the body language of that Lexus, Beefgartner was fighting his car for control through turn 6, out through turn 7 to turn 8. Out through turn 5 to turn 6, now out through turn 7 to turn 8 here at the corkscrew. Always do tend to mislabel the corners here in Seca. So looking at where things stand, Milliston from Warner from Bajor, we just see there, trouble for Milliston. That's out of turn 6. This was an area of the track we saw him have issues on the run in towards today's free practice and qualifying. We see it start to rear somewhat of its ugly head here in the form of that turn 6 incident. Now he's going to be hoping to avoid that throughout today's race. Bear in mind, a points delivery gap in and around the range of 11 points is what's going to decide whether he goes on to fight for the championship in race 2 today, or if he secures it in race 1. So he is not looking to make any more mistakes until he knows he's got this one in the bag. Checking in with the nearest car to the line. Let's go and catch on board with the number 93 car if we can. Heading down towards the line, that's Spencer Brown with Fatch GT from 4th place. Still only 2 thousandths off of William Bajor, and stifled to find any more room in that gap for 3rd place. 114 coming to the line, we're about to see here. Catching on board with Ben Cheeseman. To the line he goes from 24th on the field. Does find an improvement, but stays 24th after that last lap. The number 40 nearest to the line, so looking to catch on board here with that of Ben Hart of Nexus GT coming to the line with 8 minutes to spare in qualifying today. You see movement there in the pit lane from Euro Titans Endurance. They know they've got a very good chance today to usurp the lead of the team's championship. Bear in mind, the first ever team's champions of the Sunday League were Malwar Racing back in Season 3. Across the line a moment ago, the number 420 Cas van Veltzen maintains 8th place, not far off a shout of 7th. He's up the road from Zolt Beefgartner. 315 coming to the line. Last round's race winner then. Alan Alexander still high from the successes in South Africa. Across the line he goes, maintains 10th place on the field so far. Porsche will be likely to struggle just as much as their mid-engine compatriots over at McLaren, Ferrari and Lamborghini. Their rear engine, so really on the extreme end of the scale in that 992. We saw how effective it was in the wet, and we saw how much proficiency in the wet the 315 demonstrated in Kyalami. We've just seen recent moves there, a whole flurry of exchanges between Fatch GT and VEC Esports. Levi Warner now up to 2nd, Spencer Brown to 3rd, William Bajor to 4th. Back on the subject just very quickly. We saw how proficient he was in the wet, but he is somewhat of a fish out of water here in the parched, dry conditions in what is now north of 50 degrees on track here in Monterey County. The fair play to that Porsche, even against the odds, finds himself into that top 10. And taking a look at that series of records set this season, of course, Alexander accounts for 2 of them, of the 3 currently set so far. We could be looking at a 4th today, less from any driver or manufacturer, more so from the weather, as this looks to be approaching that record of 52 degrees as the hottest race on record. First ever Mercedes win came out of this season at round 4 in Monza, courtesy of Cas van Velzen, and then of course last weekend we saw 2 for the price of 1 in terms of records. The first ever overall rookie win and the first ever Porsche race win. Both came from Alan Alexander's exemplary performance in the wet in Kyalami. 5 minutes then coming up on left to go in qualifying today. Fats GT hold extra cards at the table here inside of that top 5. Both the Fats GT cars of Warner and Brown on the podium for the start of today's race. 1 of 2, as a matter of fact. So whether or not things go south for them over the course of race 1, there's always race 2 to look forward to. The 69 there up the inside on Thiago Moreira. 1 of 4 Porsches on this circuit. Across the line a moment ago went the 332 Shahan Karim of VEC Esports. We saw in the background there, just tucked in behind the timing charts there. That was trouble for Thiago Moreira with Porsche. Catching with the nearest drivers to the line then, back on board with the number 4, Mikhail Krasnik. Behind him, you can see approaching the number 17, Brooklyn Donkin of Euro Titans Endurance. We saw the number 17s coming in. The number 1 will be nearest to the line. Krasnik's 17th. Huge hit against the wall there for the number 4. That's not looking great for him, but he's in a blind spot here for the approaching number 1. 122.670 still fastest, and a huge hit between Krasnik and Milliston. Collected in the fray of that as well, the 317 of Ben Meredith. Huge incident during qualifying is a bizarre one indeed as we get into the twilight chapters of this championship. Very peculiar indeed. Levi Warner on the exit of turn 11. Currently 3rd on the grid. Not too far off a shout of his teammate. Moreover, Tyler Vermack took the 2nd fastest time up ahead. Now separate from Warner by only 0.02 of a second. It is ultra thin inside of that top 5. 5 drivers separated by a little over half a second in qualifying today. Or Vermack. It's definitely been one of solid odds, I'd say. Putting nicely for the 89. He was definitely not expected to be up towards that front row. There were imminent troubles with the Lamborghini. Seemingly right now he's found a bit more comfort than he had back in Kyalami in his home race in South Africa. Here in Monterey County, he does stand the chance, but you can see it is not without great difficulty. Big step out through the rainy curve. Now out through turn 10, takes a big chunk of gravel with him. This has definitely shown what determination he's put on the table to put a time in like that, to be within nearly a quarter of a second of the fastest time of the session so far, with a car some may consider less than of meta. Out through turn 1 we go. Vermack maintains 2nd fastest on the field, the 616 coming to the line. We'll see if there's any improvements on the charts here for Andrew Veldkamp of Maloir Racing. Mustang down towards the line from 23rd on the field, and across the line he goes with 3 minutes left to go. No improvement to be found. Let's see from another Maloir car on the field, Christian Lebay with Aston Martin coming down towards the line. Currently 7th on the field. Across the line he goes. Can't find any more room over George Todd. Those two separated by 100th of a second. Number 1 across the line a moment ago. Still no improvement over fastest for Melvin Milliston. I think we may have found the apex of times today. Anything else isn't going to be anywhere near as fast, with the track continuing to bed in. We're now up to 51 degrees in one of the hottest qualifyings we've ever seen here in the Sunday League. 54 next to the line. Josh Wellbeloved just in front of him. The number 17, Brooklyn Donkin, maintains 18th onto another flying lap. Wellbeloved to the line from 12th. Stays 12th after that last lap. Separated from Kyle Jenkins by 0.02 of a second. We saw recent moves there. Van Velzen shoved down a peg. Alexander to 8th. Number 89 coming to the line here. Tyler Vermack Now being pushed back down to third place by Levi Warner, pushing himself up the road by, looking at it there, 32 thousandths of a second. Vermaat can't find the room over that. He's in towards the final run of flying laps here. 1:40 left to go. If he really gets the hammer down here in this flying lap, he'll have about 20 seconds to spare to the line, giving him one more flying lap on the table. Currently looking at his chances to start from the front row, really not too far off a shout. Now put him in the best position to challenge his former rival of Season 3, Melvin Milliston. Levi Warner and Fatch GT, they're really getting themselves out there now in their third round of the Sunday League. In a late entry to the championship, they are looking to take competition by force. If they are to stay around for Season 5's Teams Championship, I see them to be a genuine threat for the championship hopes of any other team on the field. They've got good coordination, a very small number of drivers by comparison to others on this grid. But as we saw for Velocity Racing Team, it is quality over quantity. And I see them to be a sizable challenge for the lead of that team's championship. Had they entered from the start, I'd have no real doubts in my mind over that claim. Warner second. For Mac, we're watching on with at the moment third. We've just recently seen on the timing charts there, George Todd up to fourth. That pushes Spencer Brown down to fifth. We see Alan Alexander now up to sixth, ahead of William Bajor. It's been a real late lunge here by last round's race winner in the rookies division. Now up the order from Bajor, the rookies championship leader, mind you. Down in a division fourth and seventh overall, away from Alexander by 3 thousandths of a second. Vermaat across the line a moment ago, couldn't find the time necessary to hunt down second. He's got one more lap here, having beat the clock to it. 616 coming to the line. We'll catch on board here. We see a bit of trouble for Vermaat just before we cut away. Oversteer through turn 3. And there through turn 4, that's the Requiem nail on his qualifying endeavours. We see there, can't hope to salvage it. Brings the Lamborghini to the side of the road there. He'll be settling at the best of times for third place with no challenge from George Todd. Also in the pit lanes we see here, tucked in behind one of the posts. He'll be in the best of times, fourth place. Spencer Brown crosses the line for fifth. A great hustle for Fatch GT. Looking to put themselves on the map in the Sunday League. We, of course, know about them from many other series around the world of console sim racing, but for their first ever season in the Sunday League, and on a late entry, mind you, they have not disappointed in the slightest. 522. That was the amount of thousandths of a second between himself and the leading time. Sadly couldn't find what would have been necessarily 190 thousandths of a second over Spencer Brown for a top 5. Alan Alexander does settle though for 6th. So an exhilarating qualifying session, one of the hottest on record, and it's going to give us the grid, and this is what it looks like at the moment. We'll get a full read through of that grid in a moment's time for both races. Then looking back in towards the itinerary for today, we've come out of 20 minutes of qualifying, now onto race 1. Immediately after will be race 2. Both of those grids decided by the qualifying we just watched today, so this has been ultra important for the championship hopes for Melvin Milliston, now leading that charge for both races to follow. One mandatory pit stop with open fuel time like we saw last week, but unlike what we saw last week, this will not be strategically governed. This is more or less going to be a case of drivers having that break in the 30-minute race to come in and then quickly drop off the jacks and come back out. It's all about timing in that sense. Tyres may be of consideration, nowhere near as much as they were last week. Drivers were chewing through the wet tyres in torrential conditions in Kyalami. This is anything but what is a searingly hot Monterey County, California here at the Mazda WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. In articles of news, only one to report at the moment, and that comes from the world of Formula E. Nick Cassidy wins in Mexico to give Citroën Racing their first ever win. Their second race as a team in the FIA Formula E World Championship. They find themselves race winners after a very short run in towards that accolade. Nick Cassidy giving them a fantastic result in Mexico. So we wait to see the grid form up, and we see it's an extensive number of cars here, north of 20 vehicles on today's grid. What is going to be searingly hot conditions on track from both races. We'll get a look at the temperature and weather conditions for the next 30 minutes of racing here in race 1. Now, to remind you of the odds as well, coming into race 1, the gap at the moment between Milliston and LeBay sits at about 107 points. He needs to maintain that for every point it's worth. If he can't, he needs to make sure that it's a gap of at least 96 points to secure the championship here today in race 1 of 2 at round 9. So looking at the grid, we see them form up now. Melvin Milliston on pole position. Right alongside him then, one of the best qualifyings on record for Levi Warner. Second place with Fats GT on their 3rd race of the season. Tyler Vermack makes 3rd place on his 2nd run with Lamborghini. George Todd right alongside him in 4th place. Spencer Brown in 5th with Alan Alexander, last weekend's race winner, and the first ever to win with Porsche, in 6th place. William Bajor in 7th. Christian LeBay, the season 1 champion, in 8th place. Cass van Veltzen in 9th. And in 10th place, right alongside him to round out that 5th row, Zolt Beefgartner, looking to challenge after a hiatus in the middle of the season, down in the rookies wing. Kyle Jenkins in 11th place with Josh Wellbeloved 12th, Ben Hart in 13th, Carl Markle in 14th, Ivan Sanchez in 15th, ahead of Brooklyn Donkin in 16th. A less than desirable qualifying session for Euro Titans. They find only one car, well actually sorry, 2 cars I should say, in and around the top 10, that being Alexander and Van Veltzen. As right now the other half being Donkin and Meredith, 16th and 17th. Dan Jr. Poulin in 18th place, and we see here Mikhail Krasnik in 19th, Taylor Wolford in 20th, Sergio Belda in 21st, Shahan Karim 22nd on the grid, ahead of Andrew Velkamp 23rd, Ben Cheeseman 24th, Thiago Moreira in the 99 Porsche 25th on today's grid. About 2 minutes to go then from the start of the formation. That 30 minutes of racing to follow, one of 2 races today here in Laguna Seca. And this very race right now, from where we look, could decide the championship for this one in particular. Melvin Milliston has seen one of the most dominant performances in the history of the NLRL Sunday League. Just to take a look into how dominant precisely, taking a look onto the graphics here, we can find a comprehensive list of every single race winner for the last 40 races here in the NLRL Sunday League. Every orange square you see was a race won by Melvin Milliston. So far, he's dominated all of 3 in Season 4 alone. That is a truly mind-boggling statistic to wrap one's head around. And it could be race win number 15 today for Milliston. Of course, 30 minutes of racing on a hectic and incredibly hot Seca will dictate that. We see the temperatures right now, 40 ambient, 50 on track. Trouble down the order there. Was that for? Yes, it was for Alan Alexander. Momentary blip there for the 315. Hopefully nothing else comes of that. Coming up then on the 30-second warning, drivers are instructed to fire their engines up, 25 engines in all. We'll be racing down towards turn 2 at the Andretti hairpin for the first time today.
30 seconds.
So on board with Melvin Milliston. Things are looking to be very dicey indeed. Bear in mind, he's already had some fears in the back of his mind with McLaren, with those stability concerns. But he has met much larger challenges over the course of this season. A hot track is very little in the grand scheme. Right from behind him as well, just to focus very quickly as we're about to get away into the formation lap. Looking here on the 2nd row with Tyler Vermack. Now, he's right along the back end of that number 1. So if Melvin Milliston gets a good breakaway ahead of Levi Warner. Now, this is going to be a tough one. We know how powerful Ford is on a track, especially that requires a lot of uphill fighting. Ford has the torque to really keep with the rest of the field, if not dominate it. So for Vermack and the slightly more anemic 5.2 litre V10 behind his head at the moment, of that Lamborghini and Audi co-engineered V10, it's going to be a big worry for him. That Ford has got a lot of drivers dead to rights on the run uphill. So especially out through turn 6, I would say, or turn 5, sorry, on the run in towards turn 6, as we make the climb uphill, is where Ford could definitely stave off any in advance. But for Mack, he's looking to get his elbows out as soon as possible, and his main hurdle is going to be clearing Levi Warner, and I don't imagine that's going to be an easy challenge. Word from Tom Mini in chat as well. That's Thomas Romano saying no Honda today, sadly, but he will be trying to make his way to the season finale next weekend at Silverstone. You see there in the background, there's a driver. That was a blip there for the 113. Yeah, no, the 113 into the pits. So too is the number 40 at this time. 2 pit lane starts. As we take a look around the field, George Todd will be starting on the same row as Tyler Vermack. Now, what we do know about Ferrari, unlike Lamborghini, they've got just a little bit more in the bag in terms of the acceleration. Now, we saw as well back in Kyalami, it was a great start from Vermack with Lamborghini. So it all comes down to reaction timing at the end of the day. We're just talking what's on paper here, the tech specs of these cars, and what we've been able to observe firsthand from both Lamborghini and Ferrari. I'd say we're eyeing up a much more feisty grid than what we were met with back in Kyalami last Sunday. It's going to make for a rather spicy race. Couple that with the intense heat from the sun, I think things are plenty hot enough. Taking a look here, a bit of a scramble downhill through the corkscrew during the formation lap. We see Alan Alexander there, last weekend's race winner. Can he be looking for a division win today then with the rookies, as things are looking a little bit more packed up in front of him? Only time will tell. Let's get on board with the leading pair then. Levi Warner and Melvin Milliston up at the front. Heading in through turn 10. The pressure inside of that number one could not be any higher at this time. That McLaren is going to be seeing the world's weight upon its shoulders. Melvin Milliston then leading that pack. This could be for the championship number 2 and potentially for race win number 15. Let's see how it all plays out. Race 1 of 2 today then at season 4 round 9 of the NLRL Sunday League, and we are green and racing here in Laguna Seca. 30 minutes against the clock then, and a great start from the front row. Milliston leads away from Warner, who already looks to challenge up the inside in towards the Andre hairpin. Backs out of it on the run through turn 2. It's contact between Todd and Vermack. Picks up there onto Spencer Brown. Already calamity down at turn 2. It has gone horribly, horribly wrong there, but for the front row, they've been able to get away. They now see emerging from behind them. That's William Bajort and Cas van Veltzen onto the second row. We see in the background there, collision between the number 12 and the number 89. That collects the 93 and the 315. So having been caught up in all of that, Spencer Brown and Alan Alexander. Number 13, number 14, number 332, momentary rolling white flags at the moment. Milliston leads away from Warner. Bajor to third place. Van Veltzen to fourth. Just behind them there, Josh Wellbeloved in fifth. Christian LeBay chasing from sixth. We see even more trouble for Spencer Brown as we try to catch on board here. Seemingly caught up in some trouble alongside what appears to be Brooklyn Donkin of Euro Titans and the 332 of Shahan Karim of VEC Esports. Even more issues up between turns 5 and 6. Even more issues again with the 89 car. Tyler Vermack spins around in the corkscrew. Trying to look behind, you can see they're stranded just off in the distance. Was Vermack up the order? Warner nearly clashes heads with Bajor. Back in the green flags for the time being. Warner second, distanced a little bit there from that of Melvin Milliston, the 89. Emergency pit stop there. Vermack brought into the pits. He could be out of this race before it even had an opportunity to start. Boiling hot conditions here in Seca, but beating the heat so far is your current top 3. Melvin Milliston leads by 0.7 seconds to Levi Warner in second. William Bajor up to third, potentially within a chance not only to fight for the race lead outright, but also to fight for the rookies division lead, currently held by Levi Warner. The 119 with a stop-go 30-second penalty as we see a lively pit lane looking to try and catch on board here with Christian LeBay, most recently caught up by the stewards. Looking to try and catch then with that 119. Here is Christian LeBay. And I believe we see there he was cleared of his track marker, so an early pit stop for the 119 right off of the first lap. And he was caught speeding in the pit lanes. Now, we don't yet know the full story. We've seen incidents be a little bit more complex than just that. The number 13 comes out of the pits at the moment. Vermack, one of several cars in the pit lane, so we're not yet given any confirmation that the 89 is out, but it was a very early retirement to the pit lane. He could yet still emerge, but it'll be several laps down. We see Brooklyn Donkin emerging from the pit lane, one of the Mustangs there of the Euro Titans team. We're watching with William Bajor currently third in this race. Up in front, you can see Warner getting closer to that of Melvin Milliston. Andrew Veldkamp into the pit lane. It has been bedlam here on this grid. Disaster within 4 minutes. We see a little wiggle there on the exit of turn 3 for Levi Warner, reunited with his teammate Spencer Brown at Fatch GT, albeit now on two broadly different lengths of today's race. 23rd for Spencer Brown after two major incidents. Levi Warner finds himself currently in second. Looking further around the field, we see here close battling George Todd versus Sergio Belda up towards turn 5. This is for 9th place. Todd potentially looking up the inside here on Belda. Sweeps through past the apex. The two very nearly side by side. The Mustang will give him the run uphill up towards turn 6, but it's just too far away to fight back by the time we hit turn 6. Now up through the Rahal straight, up towards the corkscrew. Wide running out there for the number 12. Watching here with Sergio Belda, this is an exhilarating view of things. Down through the corkscrew we go from the driver's eye. We see up in front there, Mikhail Krasnik drops out in through the corkscrew, drops down to 10th place. Sergio Belda up to 9th, George Todd up to 8th. In the background here looks to be the two Porsches of the Euro Titans team. Ben Meredith had one hell of a start, much to the chagrin of his teammate. Right behind him there, the 315 of Alan Alexander. Meredith up to 6th, Alexander down to 7th. The 119 stop and go cleared for Christian LeBay. We see him emerging from the pit exit right alongside the 317 on the run in towards turn 2. It has been a hectic opening 5 minutes, and dare I say it, looking up towards the front, Levi Warner leads. Melvin Milliston drops down to 2nd place. Bear in mind, the best case scenario for him has already come to fruition. He holds a sizable points gap over the rest of that field. If he is not to win and take race win number 15 today, and Levi Warner to take his first, it will play of little consequence to his championship endeavours, as right now, as it stands, he will still win the championship at the closure of this race. 24, just under 25 minutes from now, could dictate the fate of that number 1. Right now, he drops down to 2nd place. Warner, in and amongst the chaos, takes the race lead in the number 69 Ford. Fatch GT, like Euro Titans last week, could be looking at a chance of a race win, but let's not speak too early. Big upset through the rainy curves there, as we'll stay on board with Milliston, now looking to fight back for the position he coveted over the course of qualifying. Right behind him, we see there Spencer Brown. Meanwhile, yellow flags are out for the 114 at the corkscrew, and the 74, pardon me, out through turn 6. That I believe to be Ben Cheeseman, and the 74, if I'm not mistaken, is Sergio Belda. So big trouble there. Watching with Melvin Milliston in that fight for the race lead up against Levi Warner. A serious challenger to the throne, as it were. We do definitely hope to see what these two will be able to do over the course of Season 5, especially in the case of that 69. Great promise. Of course, Fatch GT comes from prime fighting heritage in the local scene of the console ACC scene. We've seen them out through the Pro Series. They were a fantastic group then. We see both of these cars getting a little bit upset through turn 5, up towards turn 6, looking up the inside. It could very nearly be contact. Muscled out through turn 6. Here comes William Peugeot up towards turn 7. He takes the lead away from the both of them. Unbelievable. Threads the eye of a needle up towards the race lead. William Peugeot leads with VEC. Milliston maintains 2nd, but down to 3rd goes Levi Warner. Swaps one Ford for the other. Bedlam at turn 6. Out through turn 9 now, in towards turn 10. And how does one really start to piece together that? It has been mayhem here in Monterey. Looking to go around the outside here on the 333, muscled out through turn 11. Melvin Milliston finds himself vulnerable, potentially has to pick up on a fight for 2nd. As you can see, approaching from behind is Levi Warner. What are the chances here for the Super Swede? The championship is in the palm of his hands. He needs to act, and needs to act now. Down towards turn 2 he goes. Can't find any room up the inside, as too far away now, William Peugeot to hold on to the racing line. Absolutely unbelievable scenes here inside of that first 10 minutes of 30 in today's race. It has come at the cost of many a driver. We see the pit lane is stacked at this time, the busiest it's ever been in this season. In towards turn 5, and as we predicted there, for the case of Melvin Milliston, he's starting to bleed time away from the lead. He's caught in somewhat of a balance here, equilibrium as it were. 3 tenths in front, 3 tenths out back. There's a very closely found concertina between these two. The Fords making a McLaren sandwich, as it were. We see there Shahan Karim up in front, over rotation for the 332. You can see this is perilous. It requires such good vehicle knowledge and vehicle control from these three to keep them as fast as they are in searing conditions. It's been a rule of extremes in the last fortnights of racing here in the Sunday League, with incredibly wet weather out of round 8. Round 9 doesn't disappoint. We trade the pouring rain for boiling heat. Leveraging some slipstream there off of the forward of Dan Jr. Poulon. William Bajor continues to lead here in Laguna Seca. These are definitely ones to watch coming into Season 5. Bajor and Warner giving a very good go of things here against Melvin Milliston. The defending Season 3 champion, soon to possibly be Season 4 champion, the first ever multiple-time championship winner in Sunday League history. A lot rides on the line in this one very race. With 20 minutes before that checkered flag flies, anything can, and has already proven in the opening 10 minutes, will happen. Taking a look then after 10 minutes of racing, still on with this fight in the podium. We can see fighting out back Zolt Beefgartner versus Josh Wellbeloved for 4th place. Now this is fantastic for Nexus GT. They've been looking to get serious points on the table in the team's championship standings for some time. This has been their Hail Mary solution for 4th place at the moment. Beefgartner having absolutely none of it. Looking at a podium in the rookies. Bajor, a rookie himself in this championship, leading. Looking at what could be back-to-back weekends of rookies winning outright. Can you wrap your head around such ludicrous statistics as that? Out back, Meredith fighting against Todd. Todd looking up the inside in towards turn 11. The 12 makes contact with the 317. Both of them getting their elbows out. Ben Meredith will not be pleased as dropping down to 7th place goes the 317 right onto the iron sights there of the trying to unlap 119 of Christian LeBay. Now, strategy will play a heavy hand later down the line in this race. That one single stop, we've seen so many drivers very eager to take it right off the bat. Then this for LeBay is going to be somewhat of damage control when you consider that 30-second stop-go penalty. The 114 brings out the yellow flags for a moment there, and that was for Ben Cheeseman. Looking back up front, you see Milliston still caught in deadlock here between the two Mustangs. Meanwhile, out back, Beefgartner's bleeding time away from Josh Wellbeloved. Nexus GT have had a sudden spur of confidence here. A great start. They were able to thread the eye of a needle to put themselves in a solid position inside of that top 10. Of course, they all still have to take that run and gun pit stop. All they have to do is come in, stop, get up on the jacks, drop, leave. Simple as that. 3.2 seconds minimum stopped. And then they're out. See here, Wellbeloved still fending off Beefgartner, looking up front. And it looks like Warner, with the fastest lap of the race so far, leading a little bit more time away from Melvin Milliston, starting to gain time on a fellow Mustang up in front, William Bajor of VEC Esports. We said it for some time, he's got the makings of an outright race winner. All he needed was the time of day, and with a move like that, double overtake up towards the corkscrew. That was really quite legendary stuff from the 333. The question remains then, as we get not far from the session halfway, is can he hold on to that for the second half of the race? He takes a big chunk of gravel, very nearly the commentator's curse, striking that 333. It puts Milliston side by side at turn 5. Around the outside goes the number 1 on the 333. Can he hold it? Riding the curbs up towards turn 6. I am at the edge of my seat watching a fight like this. Milliston head-to-head with Bajor, looking to capitalise there on an odd run through turn 6. Is that of Levi Warner of Fatch GT? Up towards turn 7, it's getting close between the pair in towards the corkscrew at turns 8 and 8A. Where can this go next? Big compression there, nearly a spin for the 69. That drops him away from the fight at the moment. It leads it into a 2-horse race on the run in towards turns 10 and 11. Meanwhile, just to take a look out back here, close fighting, Taylor Wolford versus Carl Martel. Martel having already pitted, Wolford yet to have, and this is for 11th place on track. It's putting Martel in a good position here to fight for a position later on in the top 10, with plenty of drivers still hesitant to make moves to the pit lane. Looking back at the fight here of 4th place on with Zolt Beefgartner against Josh Wellbeloved, just momentarily here on board with Beefgartner. Up towards turn 2 we go. We are keeping a close eye on the situation up at the front. The 333 still leads. The 69 currently just out back of Milliston in the number 1. That's right onto the back end of the 333. We're watching here with the 599 of Zolt Beefgartner fighting with the 54 in front of him. That was Josh Wellbeloved. Just behind them, you can see that's one of the 5-star esports McLarens. I believe that to be the 114 of Cheeksman. Yes, it is. Out through turn 4 we go. Nothing yet to say in their fight for 4th place. Looking back up onto what has been a hectic fight of the podium, we see things are getting closer and closer and closer between that leading pair. Milliston, disgruntled by having lost the race lead here, even though where he stands is more than enough to take the championship here in race 1. It's all about the satisfaction, and he will be hunting it down hand over fist, looking for race win number 15. William Bajor, however, looking for race win number 1, and with 16 minutes, just shy of half of the race, just shy of over half the race left to go, I should say. There is still a lot left to be written here. Looking for an aggressive run through turn 11. We saw him attempt to go around the outside, then defaulted back onto the racing line. Milliston holds on to the back end of that 333 Mustang before we hit turn 2. Out through turn 1, we go up and over the crest in towards turn 2. Beefgartner into the pit lane, so we'll cut back on board fully with this fight for the race lead. Back on with the attacking McLaren, Melvin Milliston. But I do want to try and get a look here from either of the 2 Mustangs in that lineup. Looking around the field just to see where some of the other fights are coming from at this time. We see Todd and LeBay close by, but not for a fight of position. So we take a look on board now with the man leading this race. That's William Bajor in the 333. Potentially to be Canada's first ever race winner in the Sunday League. A lot of us had it on the table that it could have been Christian LeBay after 41 races without a race win, despite having taken Season 1's championship. It emerges from left field here. A brand new name for Season 4 could be taking that coveted accolade. Up towards turn 7 we go, in towards turns 8 and 8A at the corkscrew. Bajor leads, but he's in that fight for P1. Looking out through here, it's just nice, neat and tidy. He's not taking any unnecessary risks on the run through the corkscrew. It's caught so many drivers by the tail over the course of this race, including that number 69 down in 3rd place, that being Levi Warner. See here for Bajor, rotation not to his aid. That McLaren is gaining through the corners and has to try something ambitious here on the exit of turn 11. You can see routinely, this is the 3rd lap going now. We've seen where Milliston is trying that move around the outside, trying for a super late apex. He's trying to force Bajor to defend. That's what the game is here. Was faster by 0.005 of a second in that last lap just gone. So wrap your head around that. That is bizarre what we are seeing here. Bajor again tucking that wheel into the gravel. We've seen a few drivers try that before, and it can make the car get a bit squirrely. I don't think he's doing it by choice anymore. That simply is just going to show how dire the conditions on track are at the moment. Searing heat here in California, and it is not doing many a good number on those tires. Out through turn 6 we go, up through the Rahal Straight. On the climb uphill, and this is exactly what we're talking about. In those uphill sections, Ford has got the advantage. They've got the heftier engine. They've got that low-down grunt of a classic American V8, and that's what's giving them the advantage they need right now to stay ahead of McLaren in this race. In towards turn 10 we go. Bear in mind, consulting the last couple of race wins, this will be the first race win for Ford since the start of the season. That was from Tyler Vermack back in Indianapolis. Of course, 13 minutes left to go. We see stop-go 30s aloof here for Wolford and Hart. 2 stop-go 30s for the price of 1. The 89 and the 17 still in the pits. That's for Vermack and Donkin. You see here for William Bajor, still holding on to that race lead. It is so close up at the front of the field at the moment. Out through turn 4 we go. Here in Sector 1 on the run into Sector 2. Again, both drivers getting so dangerously close to the exit of that track. The run off to the far left-hand side. In towards turn 5 we go. You can see that Milliston just piling on the pressure now. Stuck in behind the Mustang. Can't make those moves in a straightaway. Can't make it between turn 11 and turn 2. Has to try and buy his chances in through the middle and final sectors here to surprise that 333 Mustang. Up towards the corkscrew we go, and this is a fantastic point of view to have on that perilous drop downhill. The most iconic section of the track here. It's what Laguna Seca is known for. And down through turn 9. Runs out wide there through to turn 10, in towards turn 11. That leaves space for Milliston to go around the outside. And this is what he's been planning. 4 laps on the trot now to be around the outside. And this could invite in an opportunity from the 69 hot in the slipstreams there of the number 1. But the 333 has got just enough power down range to keep himself in the title charge. In towards turn 2 we go. Not the title charge, I should say. It's contact, though, between the pair. Oh, my goodness. They collide. Bajor and Milliston collide at turn 2. Wrap your head around that one. We were trying to wrap up on saying that we weren't trying to say the title charge. The title charge for the race winner. Maybe, perhaps. But it's collision there between the two. In towards the Andretti hairpin. And we saw that one as we were trying to correct ourselves, playing out in slow motion. And then you got to see it quite literally in slow motion. It's a Ford 1-2 here in Laguna Seca. Milliston shoved down to 3rd. Bajor leads then. Warner 2nd, potentially within a chance to fight for the lead. Number 40 has its stop and go cleared. Plenty of drivers picking up penalties from the stewards today. In towards the corkscrew, we see the second half of this newly found fight for the lead amongst the Fords. It's Levi Warner of Fatch GT. We've seen from Bajor watching on board something I picked up on almost immediately. I'm not sure you could hear it over us as you see going into the pit lane goes Bajor. Something I picked up on just before that pit lane run. He was lifting a lot more than you would normally see a driver do in through that section of the track. Of course, there is a lot of coasting that happens in through Sector 3, but there was a disproportionate amount, knowing that understeer is a huge concern for Ford at this time. Bajor was playing things, even though it looked like flat out, he was actually rather hesitant. HCR Anthony subscribed at tier 1 in the chat. Thank you very much. We're on board at the moment with Levi Warner. Now finds himself with 10 minutes to spare as the newly found race winner. But let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Pit stops still to be expected. Now to bring up how the pit stops work on the regulations for this, it is a literal stop and drop. They say it's a minimum of about 3.2 seconds. That's about how long it takes for the game to get the car up on the jacks and then off. So that's really all that's accounted for. It is a case almost like a Joker lap works in the world of rally cross. Is very similar in concept to that, but on a level that makes sense here in ACC. We saw big amounts of oversteer there, nearly into the wall on the left-hand side on the exit of turn 6 for Levi Warner. This could be the best opportunity for him to come into the pits. We are seeing those telltale signs of trouble on those Pirellis. Chief in point there as he cuts turn 8A at the corkscrew. Any more of those, and like many drivers today, he'll be finding himself in trouble with the stewards. In through turn 10 he goes. Will Warner be moving to the pit lane? Not so fast then, the 69 says. The number 1 from behind him still in pursuit. 9 minutes left to go here in Laguna Seca. Let's get a look at where things stand so far. The top 3 still yet to have pitted, and a newly found top 3 there for George Todd. Cas van Veltzen 4th place at the moment. William Bajor, having taken his pit stop, emerges in the top 5 behind Van Veltzen. And so this is a unique sign for Milliston in this case, because he does need to maintain a gap. And now this is admittedly to LeBay of at least, I think it was a 96-point gap. So by looking at it here, he will still, by looks of it, take the championship. Almost said shake the championship. What on earth does that mean? Take the championship here in Season 4. Looking elsewhere on track, nearby fighting on telemetry there between 2 Malwar cars. We see up in front the Aston Martin of Christian LeBay chasing the number 12 on a different length of the racer. That's George Todd up in 3rd. We see here for Andrew Veldkamp in 14th. Bear in mind, it has been action-packed here in Seca, and we still have the pleasure of another race after today. 30 minutes of racing to be exact. Much like we've just seen so far, we're in past 23 of those minutes, and we're getting another race right off the trail of that. So where the championship could be wrapped up today, there is still a race to be won right around the corner. See here for Veldkamp dropping behind his teammate. Moreover, that's opening up the gap to another one of his teammates. That's Dan Jr. Poulin with Malwar Racing. Now, in terms of Velocity Racing Team, they still continue to outscore Euro Titans, but the problem they have, well, they only have 1 point scoring car. The rules dictate that for multiple driver teams, it is the top 2 that contribute points at the moment. And Cas van Veltzen being in 4th place, then looking further down the line, Ben Meredith being in 10th, they can still match in terms of points by the end of this race. And bear in mind, at the end of this round, or moreover, in the next 30 minutes to follow in race 2, they stand the chance with a 17-point gap coming into today between Euro Titans and Velocity Racing Team in the Teams Championship to take the lead of that. Right now for Malwa, this could be the nail in the coffin as both Velocity and Euro Titans will continue to open the gap up over them. Moreover, this could be a breath of fresh air for VEC Esports. William Bajor still putting in very solid times here. Moreover, inside of that top 5, set to move up more positions when the top 3 come into the pits. We've just seen most recently into the pits there from 7th is Kyle Jenkins with 5-star Esports. They're down to 4th in the championship so far. In terms of the teams there, Jenkins in a different position. See here from Milliston, now 2.6 seconds at the last interval away from Levi Warner. No current guesses as to when he'll come into the pits. And as I say that, into the pits goes the number 69. The number 1 darts in to follow him. And you can see where a lot of drivers are picking up those issues in terms of speeding. It is not a long run here. It's even less of a braking zone than what we actually find on the run in towards turn 11. Will George Todd follow them in with 5-star? Let's see. Down towards the line we go. And in goes the number 12. This is absolute pay dirt here for Cas van Veltzen. Not far away from gaining some positions. We see, though, Levi Warner is in and already on his way out. Same story for Milliston. He's back off the trails here, right behind Warner. Todd yet to have dropped off the jacks. Van Veltzen is yet to have made turn 11. So where we thought it could have been good news there, that goes to show just how quick those stops were. Already on their run out through the pit lane exit goes the 69 and the 1. Closer than they were when they entered. Could this reignite a fight for the race lead here between Melvin Milliston and Levi Warner with 5.5 minutes left to go? It's all on the line here for the 41st race of the NLRL Sunday League here in Season 4, Round 9. Race 1 of 2 today. Race number 42 coming up after. George Todd on his way now out of the pit lane. It looks like the number 12 has taken tyres, potentially to try and take that fastest lap off of Levi Warner. Meanwhile, Melvin Milliston's looking to take a lot more than just the fastest lap here. He's looking to take the race lead away from the 69 on the advent of what could be another overall rookie win. The second to do it here in a row now after Alan Alexander in Kyle Army last weekend. Levi Warner, looking at it, feasibly has about 3 more laps to play with before the end of this race. Melvin Milliston is not going to be giving up here in race 1 of 2. Out back we see here close gaps between Cheeseman and Veldkamp. These two could be scrapping for 14th place. They're right up in front of that leading fight between Fats GT and Velocity. See there, moving to one side. Veldkamp not looking to put his arm into the ring here. Does not want to get involved with their fight as close as it is right now. Melvin Milliston charging out through turn 1. Levi Warner on a perilous defense here for first place. It could be his first ever race win in the Sunday League, and he's going toe-to-toe with the man hunting down his 2nd championship in the Sunday League. Let's get on board then with these two, Warner and Milliston. A brilliant fight here. An incredibly short race has given us an incredibly long fight for the lead. Not one that has been an easy run here in the searing heat of Monterey County. Melvin Milliston has met his match in the form of Ford. We did predict it as well, just to bring that point back up. When we looked at the BOP standings coming into this race, one thing was definitely for certain. Ford not being on the short end of the stick was a warning, and we've seen that warning demonstrated here by Fats GT and also for a moment by William Bajor of VEC Esports. Both of those Fords gave a good run for the money of that number 1. Bear in mind, 2 more laps left to go in this race. Milliston still in pursuit here of Levi Warner. It could all change on the turn of a head here for the 69 and the number 1. The 114 just up in front of them there. Ben Cheeseman moves over out of turn 10, sorry, I should say. In towards turn 11 we go. You see here the number 1. Little bit of an awkward run out of turn 11 there. We saw what the idea was for Milliston. Very same move that he tried on William Bajor earlier this race. Levi Warner, he's no fool to this one. He knows exactly the game that McLaren's trying to play. It puts half a second away from the number 1, just between turns 11 and 2. Looking around the field then, just to quickly give us some other look of the field here. So we do feel like a lot of it has been glued towards the front for obvious reasons, but let's have a little look around here as a lot of drivers, especially in such unorthodox conditions as they are today, have been scattered around the field. One thing is for certain though, Zolt Beefgartner taking a solid result away from today in the top 5. Now looking in the division standings, he's on for the podium. Looking back over, though, to that race lead, the 114, who was a car not long ago encountered by these two, now in trouble out between turns 5 and 6. In towards the corkscrew, we see here for Warner v Milliston. We're seeing some of those compression issues we saw earlier on the suspension, the car bottoming out just as they hit the sort of dip end of turn 8A. Now hitting the McLaren more so than it's hitting the Mustang. Now I think that is starting to come from a little bit of pressure here. He does want race win number 15 as if it were his first ever. And it's that fighting tenacity that looks to be, in about a minute and a half's time, taking Melvin Milliston to the championship title here in Season 4. But he has had a very good run for his money today by what looks to be championship material if they find themselves in the grid for Season 5. Levi Warner has done well above and beyond here in Laguna Seca. They run on to what looks to be the final lap of proceedings here in Laguna Seca. Only time will tell if that is the whole truth. Out through turn 4 we go, on board with Levi Warner. A race that has been, in largest parts here, captured by all of 3, maybe 4 drivers. And really, for all the right reasons, it has been one of the greatest fights in one of the shortest amounts of time we've seen here, especially when one considers the fate of these two at hand. Milliston looking at his chances of championship number 2. Warner looking at his first ever race win. It could be the second rookie in a row to take wins outright. This time coming from Fats GT, giving them their first win over Euro Titans' first win last weekend. Heading in towards turn 9, then to turn 10. Milliston hot on the trails here of Levi Warner. It could go all the way down to the wire. Heading out through turn 10. A bit of a wobble there for the Ford. McLaren looking up the inside. Can't find any dice of it. Looking around the outside at turn 11. Heading down towards the line. Could it be a race win on the charts here for Levi Warner? It looks absolutely likely. Heading towards the line. The checkered flags are out. Levi Warner wins in Laguna Seca. A brilliant fight from the front line. Unbelievable, the closest for the win we've ever seen in Sunday League history. But let's not distract from the elephant in the room. Getting a look over towards McLaren's paddock, as we see plenty of drivers making their way down towards the line. Getting a look in here. What else needs to be said there? He gave a great fight for it. Ultimately missed out on today on what could have been race win number 15 in this race. He still has the next race coming up. But looking on here with Melvin Milliston, recounting the progress he's had in the last 4 seasons. Taking a look at it now. Spa, Red Bull Ring, Alton Park, Zandvoort, Valencia, Nürburgring, Monza, Valencia again, twice, Imola, Spa again, Nürburgring again, twice, Alton Park again. A list so expansive, it absolutely boggles the mind, and it has all led to it this time today on the trails of what has been undoubtedly the most dominant performance of Sunday League history, where fate had it land into his lap in Season 3 from second in the standings after Silverstone. Melvin Milliston has taken competition by force, numerically can no longer be caught for the championship, and in the dawn of 2026 is the world's first multiple-time Sunday League champion. Wrap your head around that one. I know I've been saying that one a lot, but it has been a race of mind-boggling proportions here in round 9. What else needs to be said there? One of the greatest races in Sunday League history there. All the way, flat out, start to finish, fight to the race win between those two. Ultimately went to Levi Warner, giving Fats GT their first ever Sunday League win and the second rookie in a row this season to go to win outright after Alan Alexander in South Africa last weekend. But nothing could stop the indomitable stride of Milliston today, a 2-time Sunday League champion. Getting a look around the field then, waiting for those final results to drop in. We are still seeing 2 more drivers to the line at this time, the 317 and the 315. As you see here for Alan Alexander, drifting around turn 11. You start to see the results there on the charts, though. Levi Warner wins by half a second here in Laguna Seca in race 1 of 2 today. Don't go anywhere, folks. We still have 30 more minutes of racing to have in race 2. Levi Warner wins in race 1, his first ever in Sunday League history, Fats GT's first ever, and the second rookie in a row to do so. Milliston takes second place, and it's enough for the championship ahead of Cas van Veltzen in third. A triumphant return to the podium then on a roller coaster of a race for the number 420. William Bajor drops to 4th place, Zolt Beefgartner 5th, Josh Wellbeloved in 6th, George Todd 7th, Ben Meredith 8th, Spencer Brown in 9th, and Kyle Jenkins in 10th. Ivan Sanchez 11th, LeBay 12th, Poulard 13th, Velkamp 14th, Hart 15th, Belder 16th, Wolford 17th, Kareem 18th, and Morera in 19th. Taking a look at the rest of the grid there, we can see 20th, but technically no checkered flag, so a confusing one there for Cheeseman. 21st, so it seems there for Alan Alexander, Markle, Krasnik, Donkin, and Vermaak, all DNFs in race 1. What a ride that was, and don't go anywhere. Don't even think about clicking that X button. We are not going anywhere here. One more race, one more no less, here in round 9. We'll wait to see that grid form up, but what a formidable race it has proven to be, and we get to do it all over again. What a treat then for us towards the end of the broadcast week here on TRTN, and what a treat for you at home. What a brilliant race that turned out to be in the first of 2 at round 9. Bear in mind, even after today, we still have one more race to play for. Season 4 round 10 coming up next Sunday at Silverstone, where things came down to a boil in Season 3. We now arrive on schedule at the Grand Prix Circuit Silverstone next Sunday. But let's wait to see how things pan out in race 2 today. Now, to remind you of that schedule, taking a look just briefly back at what were the previous race winners over the last 40 races. Race number 41 being won by Levi Warner to become the 14th driver in Sunday League history to take a race win. They'll be added onto that chart when we head to Silverstone. But taking a look at the regs, we are out of race 1 into race 2 a moment from now. Same regulations apply. 1 mandatory pit stop, a stop and drop. A hot swap pit stop. Try saying that 5 times fast, coming up for the next 30 minutes of racing to follow on what was a brilliant opening act of 2 here in round 9. P6 as well for the Nexus GT team. A brilliant result for them as well. Josh Wellbeloved putting solid points on the table for Nexus, starting to push up through the team's championship. We see there, absent of the grid, looked to have been the 315. Yes, this is that's where the 315 did qualify, if I'm not mistaken. Was it not? I'm a little confused. Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, that's exactly the spot where the 315 was, but now they find themselves at the back. So that gives us proof in the pudding there that it could be very well the case here that that was a disconnect for the 315. That's what put him down in 21st. That's why he's at the back of the grid, because his qualifying time when you disconnect is deleted. So in the game's mind, he didn't qualify, so he's at the back. That's why we now see that 315 and that spot absent between George Todd and Christian LeBay. The same grid then applies out of race 1 with a few minor exemptions, namely that 315 now at the back of the field. What does that mean? Well, out past the second row, it puts Spencer Brown up to 5th, William Bajor to 6th, but starts right behind him. LeBay up to 7th, Van Veltzen up to 8th, and so on and so forth, down through 9th and 10th there for Beefgartner, and Jenkins promoted to a top 10 start in the 113 5-star esports McLaren. Will we be seeing anywhere near the amount of conflict we had at the start of the race? I mean, it all came from that second row. An incident towards the start, the 89 and the 12 collide out of the Andretti hairpin. We also saw that incident earlier on between Milliston and either of the 2 Mustangs. I believe it was with... Actually, just have a look back here. There's no point trying to say I think it was, I thought it was. We have the replay right here, so we can just have a little look. This was the incident. It was William Bajor. So got those 2 Mustangs mixed up in a vacuum, but it was Bajor defending from the race lead. Hit there by Milliston. That's ultimately what knocked him down a peg later down the line. That and a differing pit strategy ultimately put Bajor out of commission for the race win. That went up over to Levi Warner. So this is going to be a very exciting follow-up act here. Melvin Milliston still presents the chance in this race day right now to take race win number 15. Admittedly, he was looking for that chance, perhaps a little too eager at times throughout that race, but you could definitely see where the issues we spoke of earlier were rearing their ugly heads for McLaren. Stability problems across the board. And now, as we've come to find out, not just for McLaren, Ford dealing with that in equal respects. Waiting then for that 30-second warning. And by looks of it here, we start the grid with the same 25 cars, but now with a few shifts around the paddock there. The 315 and actually the number 4 for that matter, starting towards the back. Alan Alexander and Mikhail Krasnik, 24th and 25th. You see there a gap just in front of the Holkiados Mustang of Sergio Belda, pardon me. 30-second warning, so back on board with Melvin Milliston, now a 2-time Sunday League champion. When we next see them in Silverstone, you'll be seeing 2 stars onto that placard for the number 1 McLaren. Right now, still reflecting the 1 star he had in Season 3. That'll be 2 when we head over to a fan favourite of ours on TRT. And I say fan favourite, it's my favourite. Now it'll be the Grand Prix Circuit Silverstone. Now, whilst we've got the opportunity during the formation lap, something I want to address as well is in regards to Season 5 of the NLRL Sunday League. Now, we're thinking, in the similar light that we brought Season 4's calendar into life, courtesy of the wheel, to do another form of a sort of raffle-based track selection system. Now, the wheel is most likely on the table. We'll be investigating other options in the run-in towards round 10 at the season finale in Silverstone. But I think we liked how that system worked. It gave us definitely a diverse calendar that has seen many a great battle, chief in point today at a searingly hot Laguna Seca, among several other rounds over the course of this championship that has given us 2 new race winners in the last 2 weeks of racing. And so we'll be delighted to see how that system plays out for Season 5. Heading up towards turn 6 then. This was that area we saw threading the eye of a needle for William Bajor to take the lead of the race that he held on to for so long over the course of race 1 of 2 today. Will we be seeing anywhere near the amount of action now? The main priorities for Tyler Vermaak is to steer himself well clear of that number 12 on the run in towards the Andretti hairpin. He feels as if he has the pace to compete with that front row, no doubts about it. We've seen the Lamborghini to be very spry, very fleet of foot when pushed against it. The question is, can he find himself in a good enough scenario here to go toe-to-toe with McLaren and Ford? That is another question entirely. Out through turn 9 then, still on board with Melvin Milliston, newly crowned multiple-time Sunday League champion. Right alongside him, newly crowned race winner number 14 now in the Sunday League's 4-season history, Levi Warner of Fatch GT. These two making a fantastic front row then for the run-in towards the final race of 2 today before we head over to Silverstone to wrap the season up. And this has definitely been, I would go as far to say, one of the greatest seasons on record here. A very solid follow-up act to Season 3. We'll save that topic over towards Silverstone, because now, with 30 minutes against the clock here for the last of 2 races today, what was a brilliant opening act can only end one way. Heading in towards the line then, 30 minutes against the clock, race 2 of 2 today at round 9, and we're green and racing once again here in Laguna Seca. A brilliant start again from the front row. No surprises there between the 69 and the 1. We see a little bit more of an elbows out approach there by Levi Warner. Meanwhile, crisis averted for Vermaak. He does make a little bit of contact with Warner, really starts to get a bit argy-bargy there. Up to second goes the Lamborghini. Warner won't be happy with that, but now he's definitely got the sort of tone of this race going forward. Great start by Milliston. Vermaak getting his elbows out from the race start. 113 gets through. Now exiting from the pit lane. It was a pit lane start, sadly, for Kyle Jenkins. And something definitely to take away from all of this, for this race start at least, it has been up until, I'd say, very recently there. We see Sergio Belda just up in front of Ben Cheeseman fighting with Mikhail Krasnik. We see there the Ferrari of Krasnik, the Mustang of Belda. Everyone was through the first sector of the track with no incidents. How about that? I mean, that's definitely a far cry from what we saw out of race 1. I'm sure plenty of the drivers are delighted with that set of news. We see here, pressured on both sides by Nexus GT, is Cas van Veltzen of Euro Titans Endurance. in the number 420 Mercedes. We see big compression there. Outside base, spun all the way around. Goes the 54. That's Josh Welbelove. Big crisis there for Nexus GT. Get a look at this on the instant replay. Send him head over heels out of the rainy curve at turn 9. Big compression there. The back end came away and off goes the 54. The case of Van Veltzen, 3 positions then for Mercedes. Up towards 7th place they go. Looking around the field, Vermaak still in 2nd place, but ample competition from behind. Fats GT and 5-Star looking to take a piece out of him after his move up the inside at turn 2 at the start of the race today. Into the pits goes Andrew Velkamp and Dan Junior Poulon, and for that matter as well, looking into the pits at this time, looked to have been Brooklyn Donkin. Very early pit stops here. Now, unlike last race, a lot of these could definitely be chalked up to not being caused by accidents. Now, of course, we don't know the full story of it, but judging how quickly they've gone, no damages needed to be repaired. You see here for Vermaak, now having woken up out of his slumber, now given the opportunity he's been hunting for all season, more recently on his return back with Lamborghini. We saw their momentary trouble down in Sector 1, rolling white flag for the number 13 car against the number 17. And that was Dan Junior Poulon against Brooklyn Donkin. Well, for Vermaak here, he has definitely come into his own, now unhindered by a starting incident. We can see what the Lamborghini can do here in Laguna Seca. Out behind as well, we see Levi Warner being pressured by George Todd in the number 12 Ferrari. Spencer Brown, another Ferrari in this fight, this time with Fats GT's 93 car, looking to pressure from the back of the top 5. Meanwhile, Milliston is breaking away slowly but surely. 1.2 seconds now. Charged up on that 2nd championship. The number 1 has broken away. No pressure from Ford. Lamborghini serving as an unintended guard for McLaren's lead. Out through turn 3 we go. Vermaak looking to fight with Warner. Todd looking to fight with Brown. Fighting on both the 1st and 2nd rows of this race. And a bleed over there into 3rd row. Top 5 closely connected. Well, the rest of the top 5, I should say, closely connected to that leading McLaren. We can see they're much closer to each other off in the background there. Big upset for Spencer Brown, but he keeps it. Very well done indeed for the 93. That could have been disaster. We know how quickly drivers' races have ended here in Laguna Seca. Meanwhile, looking up with the number 12 Ferrari, getting on board here. A bit of a confusing scroll through, but this is George Todd challenging Levi Warner for a podium. In through to turn 10 we go, and jumps over that sausage curb. Heavy compression for the Ferrari. Drops in behind Spencer Brown by looks of things here. He's on the inside. He'll hold it in towards turn 11. But he's not got anywhere near the momentum of the 93. He'll be vulnerable for the run up through turns 1 and 2. Meanwhile, Milliston continues to lead for Max 2nd. Warner 3rd. You see here the fight of 4th place. George Todd versus Spencer Brown. Ferrari against Ferrari. In towards turn 2. The 93 later on the apex there. Through on the inside. Goes Spencer Brown. George Todd, though, is not giving up in that number 12. Super close. Nearly pinched there through turn 3. Right behind him, we see Zolt Beefgartner now looking to make his way into the top 5. We'll stay on board with these 3 here. Caught in a fight just stray of that top 3. On with the Ferrari here of Todd. Fighting at this time for 4th place. Spencer Brown ahead of him, holding on to that position out back is Zolt Beefgartner. Fighting just in and then out of the top 5. Out through the rainy curve. We've seen it catch some drivers out already today. The 54, one among them. Into the pit lane then. Super early stuff for Zolt Beefgartner. Into the pits goes the Lexus. Number 599 leaves these two by their lonesome to fight for 4th place. So as we stay on board with these two for their fight of 4th place, getting a look around the field after 5 minutes of racing here in race 2, Beefgartner and Sanchez both into the pit lane at the moment. That promotes Mikhail Krasnik up to 9th place. Moreover, it's going to push Kyle Jenkins, by look of it, into the top 10 for the time being. We can see very early pit stops there from Van Veltzen, Lebay, Martel, Poulin, Donkin and Belder, among several others, Wolford included. We see Wolford actually getting closer and closer to Sergio Belder. That could be a fight to consider in the near future. We see here even closer fighting. These are the two Porsches of Euro Titans sicked onto the back end there of Ben Hart with Nexus GT. Ben Meredith looking to go around the outside at turn 5. Watching here with Alan Alexander, gets up on the inside of his teammate. The two Porsches working in unison here to fight with Nexus. 317 rushed out wide though through turn 6, now up the Rahal straight. Alan Alexander moves up to 7th place, Ben Meredith down to 8th. Ben Hart just has to hold his nerve here, hope that nothing goes wrong. With Nexus GT, they've already had 1 good result today. 2 is not going to hurt them. Meanwhile, back up in that fight for the top 5 positions, up for 4th at the moment, still in a stalemate between the two Ferraris, Brown and Todd. Alexander still fights with Hart. We see Meredith into the pit lane. Close fighting once again we see here. We spoke of it briefly. Now we see between Ivan Sanchez and Dan Jr. Poulin. What we were trying to comment on was another Holkianos car, Sergio Belder, fighting with Taylor Wolford with Porsche there, VEC Esports. Looking briefly back in. Many fights to consider. I must say this has been a much more refreshing second run of things here. Compared to that chaotic start. Now that the drivers have found their footing, have been scorched in, bed in with 30 minutes of searing hot racing here in Laguna Seca, they're a lot more confident behind the wheel in time for race 2. We see here, it's less so behind the wheel, more so behind the controller for Alexander. Again, such an impressive accolade to consider that he's able to do all of this on controller. I could not fathom such difficulty. I mean, that would be like asking me to play WRC on a controller. I couldn't fathom a concept such as that. You see here for Todd v Brown, the Ferrari civil war as it is for 4th place between Fats GT and 5-star. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Milliston continues to lead here. Nearly 10 minutes strong on race 2. Tyler Vermack is still close by, off by 1.3 seconds at the last interval. Closest among the fray. Doesn't look to be going away anytime soon as he takes the fastest lap with Lamborghini. Two fights for the price of 1 here, just through the 3rd and 4th rows of this field. With Brown v Todd, of course, we've spoken of several times. We catch back on board with another fight we started speaking of recently, Hart v Alexander. And then just one little peek down through the order to see a 3-way fight going on for 15th place at this time. Now, that could shift up a few positions in the near future in about 21 minutes' time. And that's the fight between Ivan Sanchez, Dan Jr. Poulin and Brooklyn Donkin. Cas Van Veltzen getting closer and closer to Zolt Beefgartner. Now, this is a promising sign for Van Veltzen because this could represent a significant chunk of positions made up under strategy. That one very short pit stop, still more than enough to shift cars up through the order. Zolt Beefgartner is only 5.9 seconds away from the farthest down the line of the non-pit runners. That's Kyle Jenkins in the 113. Now, props to him. He started from the pit lane. Right now does find himself, albeit under strategy here, up by half the field. To correct on a point we made earlier on in the broadcast, and I understand this is probably something that was a bit of a throwaway line at the time, was saying that strategy won't be anywhere near as much of an importance here. You could make the argument maybe so, but what I was trying to get out, and I don't know why I didn't explain it at the time, was the importance of changing tyres. The drivers won't be so quick to drop onto new tyres like they did in the endurance round last weekend, as they have far less the amount of time to play with, and every second counts in those incredibly short pit stops. Out through turn 10. Scrolling through a few battles here. Now, this is the one for 15th place. Sanchez v Poulin. Alexander v Hart is your next one on screen at the moment. That's for 6th place. And then just up the road from them, the fight of 4th. George Todd on your screens at the moment, fighting with Spencer Brown up in front of him on your screens now in the 93. Let's cut on board with what appears to be the closest at this time. As I say that, things start to distance themselves out through turn 5 and turn 6 between Alan Alexander and Ben Hart. So it could be in the topic here of another fight. This is for 10th, Zolt Beefgartner versus Cas van Veltzen. Beefgartner in the Lexus, van Veltzen in the Mercedes. Let's get a look on board with these two then, as we see this momentarily as the fight currently up front for the scope of 4th place. We do see Levi Warner is hemorrhaging time. He's getting closer and closer to his teammate, Spencer Brown, on your screens at the moment. Batch GT already high from the successes earlier on, their first ever Sunday League win. One for the history books there for Levi Warner. Potentially a series of first of a series of wins, I should say, given the form he's been on in a very short amount of time spent in this series. We will hope to see them again in Season 5. So, looking to try and catch on board with the fight going on. This is for 10th place we want to go and locate. We do briefly see here much more intense scenes in the fight of 6th. Hart v Alexander at the moment. Alan Alexander reeling from last week's race win. His first ever. So really running on a series of firsts here. And I do want to point this out because there has been some trouble for Cas van Veltzen. He is now dropped back in behind Christian Lebay, now 11th place and nearby to Zolt Beefgartner by 3.3 seconds. So we will cut away from their fight inside the top 10 as that seems to have simmered down just a tad before the halfway mark of today's race. We're on board with Alan Alexander and Ben Hart in the fight of 6th place. See here on the exit of turn 10. The 40 almost looked like it was going into the pit lane. Alexander way later on the brakes around the outside on Ben Hart. It's going to be a drag race down towards turn 1 and 2. We know how fast BMW can be, so things are looking rather one-sided here in the case of Ben Hart. Mikhail Krasnik into the pit lane then, the number 4. With Met Sim Racing. A fight between Nexus GT, who really have come into their own in Laguna Seca, a team that has been towards the back of the team's championship, struggling to put points on the table, has really found a healthy dose in round 9 of the championship. Better late than never, I suppose, for Nexus GT. Both Josh Wellbeloved and Ben Hart saw great results throughout today. Wellbeloved less so on this race. We saw a big incident earlier on for the 54. It's its teammate now, Ben Hart, looking to pick up on a solid chunk of points in race 2. 16.5 minutes left to go. Let's see how it unfolds between these two in the fight of 6th. Looking up the inside, I mean, it was risky there, and it is contact between himself and Ben Hart. Fortunately, nothing else came of that incident, albeit a little bit of a shock to the system between the pair. Levi Warner, meanwhile, is into the pit lane. In and amongst this wad of front runners, yet to have taken any suggestion of a pit lane run. Will either of these two be looking at that shot? Not likely, as we see them both stay out in through to turn 11. The 40 caught up the inside by the 315, but much is the same as we saw in the last lap. Actually, almost a little bit of if he kept turning through that, and if the 315 didn't back off, that would have been a pit maneuver. Meanwhile, the 54 in trouble again. I believe that to be Josh Wellbeloved. Up the inside goes Alan Alexander. It is a bit of a blindside leap as fighting him back almost immediately as Ben Hart. Alexander's around the outside on the exit of turn 2. That puts him to the inside on the run into turn 3. A little bit more door dinging. Things are getting white knuckle in the stead of 6th place. Now quickly upgraded to the fight of 5th. Ben Hart looks up the inside on Alan Alexander. Looks to go the long way around at turn 4. Dangerously close to the gravel. The BMW tucks in behind. For the time being, Alexander up to 5th. Ben Hart looking up the inside, though. Things are getting dicey. You saw it on the radar at the top of the screen, just as we were briefly on third-person view for Alan Alexander. As we hit the session halfway, things are picking up massively between the 315 and the 40. So at the session halfway, no current suggestion of anything pit lane-wise from the top 2. We see both Milliston and Vermac currently on the mini-maps at the moment, making their way down through turn 1. Meanwhile, we've just watched here with Alan Alexander really get his elbows out and get his knuckles grazed in a fight with the 40 for position. They're now up to what is technically 5th place on field. We'll see where that stands under the pit stops later on. We see into the pits just in the background. There goes the BMW with Ben Hart. Alan Alexander left by his lonesome for the time being after a heated fight for 5th. Zolt Beefgartner already having taken their pit stop. This is a free position coming up for him. Ben Hart being that position, moving up to 7th place then will be the 599 Lexus. Right behind him we see Christian LeBay, not too far away at all. A gap that was previously 3.3 seconds. Now, I want to point this out. I've just seen this on the maps. It's the 420. At the corkscrew, it's Cas van Veltzen. And he's holding the throttle in. We see there the wheel. I think I might know what's going on here. This has happened before for Cas van Veltzen. The car stuck in gear, stuck in throttle, blasting into the wall. That, right there, folks, that is hardware failure. The 420, this has happened to him before. Way back when in the Solo Multiclass Endurance Championship back in the early half of 2025, we saw a great start in Nürburgring by Van Veltzen. After a less than ideal qualifying session, pitched him towards the back, even behind the GT4s. But before we got to the end of lap 1, out through Coca-Cola Curve, where he'd already made his way up into the midst of GT3, his hardware gave out in a much similar fashion to what we just saw there of the 420. It's given out at the worst possible moment for Van Veltzen. It was looking on a good redemption drive, tucked in behind LeBay after a minor incident earlier, and looked to be on the chances to fight within the top 10. We're on board now with Tyler Vermack, who in the time last, having since seen him, has dropped away from Melvin Milliston. The gap they held was 1.3 seconds. He's not yet lost track of that fastest lap of 1:23.087 in the number 89 Lamborghini Huracan, but he is now off by nearly 5 seconds to Melvin Milliston. Moreover, the gap between himself and Spencer Brown only at 4 seconds, with possible suggestions that it could be closing in. You can see in the background right behind that blue Ferrari is the black and gold number 12 of George Todd, still pressuring all through this time for a podium. Speaking of, here is George Todd, chasing up through turn 6 in towards the Rahal Straight, giving the lights there over to Spencer Brown, trying to get inside of his head here. Things are about to get heated if neither of these two take the initiative to run to the pit lane. 12 minutes left to go. We're well beyond the session halfway. And taking a look here on the wider scope of things, this is what the standings are concerned with. And looking down past the current remaining 5 drivers to take any suggestion of a pit stop, neither of these two taking their chances this time around. As I say that, did the 93 went in? That was just incredibly late then for Spencer Brown. He's into the pit lane. Sold a bit of a blindsider there to George Todd. We see Cas van Veltzen sadly out of this race on technical grounds. A hardware failure for the 420 kept the throttle pinned. Ultimately, he dived in towards the corkscrew. That Mercedes became a permanent fixture, so it was, of the tyre wall. In terms of nearby fights, we'll get to them, but down through the order right now, Melvin Milliston leads for Max second with the fastest lap, Todd up to third, Alexander to fourth, Brown on the run out of the pit here, looks to be holding on to the top 5, away from Zolt Beefgartner in 6th, LeBay right behind for a fight of 6th place at this time, he's 7th, Ben Meredith in 8th, right behind him Carl Markle in 9th, Ben Hart in 10th, right behind him is Brooklyn Donkin in 11th, not too far away from Donkin, in 12th place is Dan Jr. Poulon, Levi Warner in 13th, Mikhail Kwasnik in 14th place, William Bajor in 15th, Ivan Sanchez in 16th, Kyle Jenkins right behind him there, sandwiched in between 2 Holkianos Motorsports cars in 17th, right behind him, Sergio Belda behind him, Taylor Wolford. Very, very close stuff here towards the back of the field. Wolford trying to get his nose up the inside there on the 74. We've got confirmation as well from Cas van Veltzen of that hardware failure, frustrations for the 420, and the most unfortunate timing for it as well, on what looked to be the beginnings of a solid comeback drive. You see here from Taylor Wolford's point of view, looking up towards the back end of Sergio Belda, as a whole train of cars here look to do battle. We see further up in that train, we see here some side-by-side action to be expected of Dan Jr. Poulon versus Levi Warner, side-by-side on the exit of turn 4. Now this is for 12th place on the grid. Malwal versus Fats GT, and around the outside in towards turn 5 goes Warner. Into the pits at the moment, Alan Alexander of Euro Titans Endurance. Could that be his chances of the top 5 running away from him? Spencer Brown of Fats GT looking to take 4th place. Zolt Beefgartner not far away at all. Neither is the case for Christian LeBay. Now, Alexander already on the way out, but you can see how far back he is in the pit lane. He's still got to sit there stifled at, I believe it's like, what, 30 miles an hour before he can get out of the pit lane. Might even be even less than that. So you see here, close action. We already saw Warner take 1 position off of a Mustang. There's nothing to say he can't do it twice. The number 17 nearest to him and the newest victim, as Levi Warner has begun the charge once again. Now up 2 positions in 1 lap. Warner up to 11th. So taking a look with these three Mustangs, three different teams, three different Mustangs. You see into the pit lane goes George Todd. Let's get on board with the Fords, though, towards the back of this field. See here for Levi Warner already having taken 2 positions for ransom. In the foreground, you can see is Ben Hart in 10th, very quickly being caught up by the 69. And now, the reasoning behind it, why Warner is so far down the line, he didn't inform the crew he didn't want tyres. So he didn't untick tyres in his pit stop request. That's why he has got such a night and day difference over the rest of the grid there. It does go to show just how dramatic the difference is. A bit of a shove between the pair in towards the corkscrew. This could get hairy, and it's side by side, pushed all the way out at the corkscrew. That got ugly between Hart and Warner. Hart drops down to 12th. Warner's up to 10th. There's going to be stiff words between the pair of them. Not many I can dare to repeat on air. That was something. Number 420 still in the pits, and that brings out the yellow flags in the top left hand of our screen, but not a yellow flag on track. Technically, it's just for a stranded vehicle after Cruz recovered the 420. Looking out back here, William Bajor is catching up to Dan Jr. Poulon. Now, this is for 12th place. Meanwhile, you can see out back there, Mikhail Krasnik and Ben Hart. Bajor looking up the inside on Poulon. The 13 not looking to put up too much of a fight here, looking for a counter-attack, as it were, in through turn 2. Can't find anything of it. And Dan Jr. Poulon has to settle at this time for 13th. Now potentially to lose that to Mikhail Krasnik. Big slide, though, for the number 4. Does he hold it? It's a lot of fishtailing, but he does hold on to it, much to the chagrin of the 4, though, because he has now lost out position to Ben Hart. Back on the revenge drive. He smells blood in the water, and his iron sights set firmly on Levi Warner. 7 minutes left to go. We've had a lot more fighting here just outside of that top 10 than we had in the last race. The 89, that's Tyler Vermack, has a drive-through penalty, I should say, not a stop-go. So that has not gone well for Tyler Vermack. That is potentially his podium chances thrown away. He's 3.7 seconds away from Spencer Brown. Moreover, George Todd, not too far away at all either. He emerges from the pit lane second place, but it is one that will be short-lived for the 89. Much like it was in South Africa, it's going to be a day of lessons learned for the 89 Lamborghini. I'd say in his case, though, I don't think this ought to affect his mentality coming into the series. There are tough days, and there's plenty of them. These have been 2 of the toughest rounds to be put back-to-back here. Pouring rain in Kyalami, searing heat in California. It is not a particularly graceful re-entry to any championship, especially trialing on those new ideas with the 89. So one thing he can take away is he knows he has the pace for it. It's now a game of consistency and a game of risk management for the 89. He knows in the brass tacks of it all, in the fundamentals of racing, he's got that part covered. Now is where we get onto the more advanced stuff. See here for George Todd, looking upon the advent of a 3rd place finish here. Spencer Brown looking to put himself 2nd place. Those two distance from one another by 2.8 seconds. The 89 has 2 more laps to serve that drive-through. Otherwise, it will be a sizable penalty or perhaps even disqualification. You see, the last lap told us anything. It's that Christian LeBay does have about a 10th over Zolt Beefgartner, at least in that last lap alone. If that's a consistent trend, we'll start to see that 1.8 second gap in the next 5 minutes start to whittle down. And based off of that drive-through penalty as well, he could be seeing the top 5 before he has the chance to fight with the Lexus in front. So this could upgrade to a fight of 4th place. A great talking point to bring things away from what was a less than ideal starting position for the Aston Martin. On race number 42, still yet to have found his way to the front, but I would definitely say it is not long from now for the 119 of LeBay. There are brighter horizons ahead in what has been a brilliant saga with Aston Martin. One of the most iconic drives of the Sunday League's history in that V12 Vantage. It's going to be strange to not see it on Season 5's grid. He'll be moving over to Jaguar, which we already have the data to hand, has proven he is more than a second faster than he is currently with the Jaguar. That's going to be a surprise to see. Now, those of you who watched earlier on in the week, namely on yesterday's dual setter broadcast, and specifically with the HCCL Multi-Class Championship over at Round 2 in Watkins Glen, we saw a sudden last lap dash there and an accident up in front that gave the rise by being close enough throughout the race for Pascal Stoltz to take a podium with Jaguar on the second race of the season. I mean, that was really quite something. Moreover, Stoltz has taken podiums before in other HCCL series, such as the Carousel Cup. He, and as well as the entirety of the Jaguar GT3 Revival Series by Competizione Performance League, have showcased just how competitive the Jaguar can be on paper. In execution, we've started to see those signs right off the bat this very weekend. In the Sunday League, we're about to see that in Season 5. We see here up front, or I suppose out back more relevantly, the fight between Wellbeloved and Cheeseman. This is for 20th on the field. Both of them struggling for grip with 3.5 minutes left to go. Looking to catch on board. There's a fight going on out past the views there of one of the Porsches on track. Let's go and get a look in there. We saw a handful of Mustangs. It's Carl Martel versus Levi Warner. Currently fending for 9th place here. Carl Martel pressured from behind by the 69. He's been on the warpath throughout today. Can't find a stab of it up through turn 6 on the run out through the Rahal straight up towards turn 7. The 69 side by side here and leaps for it there. Super late on the brakes for Levi Warner. It almost looked like he wasn't going to stop in that 69 Mustang. Get a look on that on the replays. That was rather frightening. Now, not the strangest incident we've ever seen here at Laguna Seca. That honour would go over to MSC Season 2. We watch a man get javelined off the track in this very section here. But what a sudden bit of brakes there by that of Levi Warner. For Carl Martel, he drops down to 10th place. 1.1 seconds clear now of Levi Warner, now pushing up from 9th. And next in his sights, Ben Meredith in 8th place. Bear in mind, it's a curious case here for Levi Warner. While he won't be picking up anywhere near as good a result as he did in race 1, that accidental decision to keep the tyre strategy alive and put himself on new tyres, much at the cost of his position on track, has given him one of the most compelling runs of this grid. Of course, everyone else not taking those new tyres, and you can see the difference at play. Not for nothing, he's going to be looking at the chances here, at the very least, of 8th place, because Ben Meredith's right up in front of him. 2.7 seconds up the field is Alan Alexander. Now, we're on the advent of the final lap coming up. I think it'll be this next lap coming from the number 1. Side-by-side action there between Warner and Meredith. Meredith is no fool. He's not going to be just rolling over and letting the position get him by. He's going to push. He's going to shove. Things could get dicey between these two. Let's stay on board with Levi Warner fighting with Ben Meredith for 8th place. We do have trouble out back. It's for the 74. Sergio Belda on the run in towards the corkscrew. Had a spot of bother there with his Mustang. Looking up the inside through turn 1. It's a bit egregious there. He's running basically on the pit exit, but to put himself up the inside over the 317. And that looks to be easy breezy there for Levi Warner up towards 8th place. 2.5 seconds from Alan Alexander. Can he hope to clear a gap like that in what is only going to be one more lap after this one coming up? Only time will tell. And towards turn 4 he goes then. Now into 8th place. A charge upwards of 5 or more positions from where he left that pit lane. He's been moving like a man possessed courtesy of those new tyres. Right for 12th here. Brooklyn Donkin versus Dan Jr. Poulon. As you heard there, leader on the final lap will be catching on board with Melvin Milliston on what looks to be the advent of race win number 15. That's been a real treat for him this weekend. Had a great fight with Warner all the way to the checkered flag in race 1. Now leads by the landslide that we normally see from that number 1. We'll catch on with him later on. We see here with the 17 and 13, Donkin and Poulon. These two have been pretty close to one another throughout this race. We see they'll be boiling that over into another lap coming. All in contention at this time for 12th. We do see some fighting as well going on around the field. So this is from Donkin's point of view. We also see fighting here out back. Sergio Belder versus Taylor Wolford. Now Belder running into trouble just a little earlier on. And you can see there, that's what the case is. He's got damage over the nose. That's great news for Taylor Wolford. The number 12 is in trouble. We do have the yellow flags out. We see up the inside goes Taylor Wolford. A lot kicking off here in a very, very small amount of time. The number 12 was in serious trouble. We see here Ben Meredith fighting with what looks to be, that is in fact Cole Martel. As he drops down to 10th place, you see up the order there, Levi Warner, William Pajor right behind them. We can't make head or tail of it. Down towards the line, almost didn't catch him to it there as the checkered flag flies. It's race win number 15 for Melvin Milliston. But it has been absolute bedlam kicking off on the circuit, so let's not waste any more time here. Brilliant result for Milliston, but what on earth is going on this track? Spencer Brown into second place. 2 podiums in a row now for Fats GT. Zolt Beefgartner chased all the way to the line there, narrowly escapes Christian LeBay. George Todd in trouble, finds his way down to 5th. Tyler Vermack, actually sorry, will find his way up to 5th as the results update there. 5th place, a good turnaround in spite of it all for Vermack. Todd looking at 6th. Alexander 7th. Warner slides out through the rainy curve. That could be trouble for race 1's winner. Running into trouble, he's holding short of it. Giving over space to what appears to be, that's the number 13 of Dan Jr. Poulon, as Warner drops all the way down. So that was a confusing one there as the results start to update. Alexander 7th, Meredith 8th, Bajon 9th, Martel 10th, and as we saw there, letting Poulon up to 11th, Levi Warner drops down to 12th. Krasnick 13th, Sanchez 14th, Jenkins 15th, Cheeseman 16th, Hart 17th, Wolford in 18th place, Belder 19th, Josh Wellbeloved in 20th, Andrew Velkamp 21st, Cas van Veltzen a DNF. What a confusing end to the race there indeed. Strong following act. Plenty of things to try and unpack from that final lap. There was a lot of trouble going on down the line, namely for that of the number 69. Dropped down a considerable wad of positions on what looks to be also damage for the 69. The bottom line though, race win number 15 now for Melvin Milliston. On top of his championship endeavours here, already being secured. A 2-time Sunday League champion, a 15-time Sunday League race winner. Brutal statistics in the long run for the number 1. Spencer Brown picks up a very solid look of the podium and moreover, the rookies category win for Spencer Brown. Not to be overshadowed by the successes of his teammate, that being Levi Warner, who took both the rookies and overall race win in race 1. It's back-to-back rookies division race wins for Fats GT, ahead of Zolt Beefgartner onto the podium for the rookies and ahead of Alan Alexander onto the podium for the rookies, but 7th overall. Not great news for Bajor, especially in this race. Drops considerable amounts of time away from Beefgartner, who has been catching him in the last couple of rounds. We'll see how it all boils down, though, in Silverstone. What a race that has proven to be. Absolute cinema here in Monterey. You see the 315 is actually out on track. Let's go and have a little looky here and see what is going on. Oh, maybe not. I think that was a bad time. Well, that's the end of the road here on TRTN. A brilliant broadcast week we've had so far, and honestly, always a pleasure to be here for the Sunday League, and what a round that's proven to be. Congratulations then to Melvin Milliston. As a matter of fact, we'll see if we can try and get a word out of him this time around. It was after round 10 of last season where he was then given the championship. Let's see if we can go and quickly find a word here from Melvin Milliston. Now, no promises, of course. Some drivers, they are a bit, shy to the microphone, with every right to be, and we respect that. If they don't want to chat, they don't want to chat. We'll give them a ring and see if there's anything they'd like to say.
Green light. Go, go, go.
Well, sadly, it doesn't appear that we're getting any word there out of Melvin Milliston. We'll try to get in touch with them then towards the end of the season in Silverstone, but what a result that's proven to be. Emotions clearly at an all-time high here. 2 championships in a row now for the Super Swede. Really quite an evening to remember. And race with number 15 to go alongside it. That's a late Christmas present, had ever I seen one. That's all from us here on TRTN. We'll be catching back up with the Sunday League next Sunday for the season finale at Silverstone. For our next broadcast coming up, it will be, I think, looking at the calendar here, we'll be back with the GT4 Pro-Am Cup America Series for round 2 of the championship on Competizione Performance League. That's all from us here. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care. Good night.